Suddenly, another fart exploded. This time, it was not silent, and it came from the direction where Princess Amaka sat. The only people in the room were Prince Amika, his friends, and Princess Amaka, so it was certain that if it came from her direction, she was the one who released it. Many years ago, in the village of Umuaka, there lived a very beautiful princess named Amaka, the daughter of King Chike and Queen Adaeze. Princess Amaka was not only beautiful on the outside, her inner qualities shone even brighter. She was known as the apple of her father's eye and the morning star of the people of Umuaka. Her smile was so contagious that it could make anyone forget their sorrows. From childhood, Princess Amaka had a best friend named Ifeoma. Ifeoma was the daughter of Queen Adaeze's best friend, and it was no surprise that the two little girls soon became inseparable. Whenever Ifeoma's mother visited Queen Adaeze at the palace, Ifeoma went with her and was drawn to Princess Amaka's lively personality. Ever since then, they stuck together. Ifeoma's mother was a single mother, and after she died, Ifeoma was helpless and alone. Princess Amaka begged her father to allow Ifeoma to live with them in the palace. The king granted his daughter's wish, and that was how Ifeoma started living in the palace. Princess Amaka never made her feel like she was not from royal blood. She shared all her belongings with Ifeoma and told her maids to attend to Ifeoma as well. However, despite being accepted into the royal household, it was easy to see that Ifeoma was not royalty. Whenever Princess Amaka and Ifeoma walked around the village, the princess naturally outshone Ifeoma. The princess's beauty, radiant smile, and joyful spirit always enchanted the people. They would stop to greet the princess and hear something pleasant from her without noticing Ifeoma's presence. As they grew into young ladies, the young men in the village began to admire the princess. Whenever they saw her walk by, they would stop to compliment her, and she would bless them with her lovely smile. These men barely noticed Ifeoma, who was always with the princess. It was as if Princess Amaka used a spell to hold their attention. Although Princess Amaka was innocently replying to those young men, the other maidens in the village did not think so. They felt threatened by the princess. Something disturbing happened one day that set all hell loose on the princess. She was approached by a wealthy young man who had just visited the village. The man had seen her the previous day and was immediately captivated by her beauty and personality. He decided right then that he wanted to marry her. He walked up to the princess and greeted her. "It is an honor to be in your presence, dear princess. You are far beyond every other woman in your grade. I would be the happiest man if you would grant me the honor of being your husband." Princess Amaka was surprised. She was just seeing this man for the first time, and yet he had the courage to propose marriage to her. She was impressed by his courage and smiled at him. The young man continued, "I am Namdi. I came from the neighboring village, and I must confess that I have not seen a princess who is as gorgeous and yet down-to-earth as you. Please, what is your name?" "Amaka," the princess replied. Namdi then told her that he would love to change her name to Ugonma. The princess smiled and told him that he sure had a flattering tongue and a truckload of courage. As they went home that evening, Princess Amaka asked Ifeoma what she thought about Namdi. Ifeoma told her, "I think he is a brave man. He knows what he wants and is brave enough to go for it." "So, would you consider his proposal?" Ifeoma asked with a smile. "Let's see how it goes," Princess Amaka replied. Namdi and Princess Amaka started to see each other more often, and the princess began to like Namdi. Then one day, Princess Amaka and Ifeoma were walking along the village paths as usual when four young ladies approached them angrily. One of them called Princess Amaka a husband snatcher. The princess and Ifeoma were shocked and looked around to be sure it was not them these ladies were up against. The same lady spoke again. Princess, or whatever you are called, you can deceive others with your devilish smile, but you can't deceive us. How dare you seduce my husband-to-be and snatch him away from me?" The princess was confused, and Ifeoma wanted to confront the angry lady, but the princess told her to calm down. Princess Amaka then asked the angry lady, "I am confused here. Can you please tell me exactly who the husband I snatched from you is?" The other three ladies laughed mockingly at the princess, and then one of them said, "You pretender, don't you know Namdi is her husband-to-be?" Princess Amaka was shocked. "Namdi, your husband-to-be? He never told me he had a woman he intended to marry. I didn't know." Before the princess could prove her innocence, the angry young lady cut her short. "Enough is enough. Your cup is full in this village. You can no longer continue taking all the young men away from us. You might do it to others and go scot-free, but not with me. If Namdi does not marry me, then I will hold you responsible for it. Everything was going well between us until you came into the picture. I promise you, you won't get away with this." The lady huffed and walked away with her friends. Ifeoma was very angry. "Why didn't you allow me to give that rude girl a piece of my mind? Who does she think she is to come before you and say all those vile things? She even threatened you." The princess looked at Ifeoma and shook her head. "Being calm was the best response we could give them. Would you have preferred we engaged them in a fight?" And then, when people asked what we were fighting for, we would say it was because of a man. That would have been the most shameful thing ever. I would never fight for a man. Ifeoma seemed to agree with the princess and asked her what she intended to do about Namdi. The princess replied, "I don't know, but I have to hear his explanation first." The next time Princess Amaka and Namdi met, the princess had a gloomy look on her face. Namdi was worried and asked the princess what the problem was. The princess asked him directly, "Were you going to marry someone else before you met me?" Namdi was shocked at her question, but he had to be honest with her. "I had met a girl earlier and we were getting to know each other, but I haven't gone to see her parents with any drink yet." Princess Amaka was upset. "Namdi, that's not fair. Since you knew you were talking to another woman, you shouldn't have approached me. Now, thanks to you, I got harassed by your supposed fiancé." Namdi was stunned. "What? What happened? Did she hurt you?" Princess Amaka cut him off. "None of that is important now. The deed is done, but please respect my decision. I can't have anything to do with you anymore. Just go and make things right with her," she said and walked away. Namdi stood there, shocked, watching her leave. Did she just break up with him? No, that's not possible. He was angry and immediately went to confront the other lady. "Chinyere! Chinyere, where are you? Come out here!" Chinyere was inside the house alone when she heard a familiar voice calling her name. She came out and was shocked to see Namdi fuming with anger. "Chinyere, how dare you? Who gave you the right to harass Princess Amaka?" Chinyere understood the reason for his anger, but she couldn't bear to lose him, so she begged him. "Please, Namdi, I was just jealous. I didn't mean any harm. Please forgive me. You were no longer visiting me, and I thought it was because of her." Namdi was not interested in any of her explanations and told her, "You have achieved your aim, right? The princess has broken up with me." Chinyere smiled secretly when she heard this, but her face soon changed when she heard his next words. "But news flash, it's over between you and me. I would never marry a woman like you." Namdi thundered and walked away. Chinyere couldn't bear it and ran after Namdi, begging and crying, but he did not turn back. Neither did he return to their village again. Chinyere was heartbroken and continued to blame Princess Amaka for it. She swore never to forgive her. Princess Amaka continued with her life and soon attracted the attention of a prince from a neighboring village. She was hesitant at first to accept the prince, but after studying him and getting to know him better, she opened up and agreed to be in a relationship with him. This prince's name was Emeka, and he was the heir to his father's throne. The prince and the princess were very much in love, and were already making plans to get married. Prince Amaka invited Princess Amaka to his father's palace. He had boasted so much about her beauty to his friends, and they were all eager to meet her. Princess Amaka honored the invitation and was warmly received by Prince Amaka in his chambers in the palace. His friends, who were already waiting for her, were spellbound by her beauty. As soon as they saw her, they smiled and winked at the prince, then went on to compliment her. The prince had planned a royal banquet, and very soon the table was set by the palace attendants. They were all eating and chatting happily when suddenly a bad fart smell filled the banquet room. This smell was so strong, like rotten eggs, that everyone had to stop eating and hold their breaths. They all looked at each other to be sure their noses were not deceiving them. There was a weird feeling in the room afterward as everyone became cautious. The smell faded away, and they started eating again. Suddenly, another fart exploded. This time, it was not silent, and it came from the direction where Princess Amaka sat. The only people in the room were Prince Amaka, his friends, and Princess Amaka, so it was certain that if it came from her direction, she was the one who released it. All eyes fell on the princess, and her heart started to beat faster. She was very embarrassed. When the first fart escaped, she was shocked as she did not expect it. She was, however, grateful that it was silent, so no one knew she was the one who did it. But this second one was loud, and there was no way she could hide from the responsibility. To make matters worse, the smell of this second one was triple the first one, and no matter how they tried to hold their breath, the smell just stuck to their noses. Prince Amaka was also very embarrassed. This was the first time his friends were meeting his fiancée, and the best present she could give them was her smelly fart. How come he hadn't noticed this about her before? His friends could not tolerate it this time, and they stylishly excused themselves from the banquet, leaving only the prince and princess in the awkward situation. Prince Amaka was very angry, and he shouted at the princess, "What was the meaning of what just happened? Why would you choose to embarrass me in front of my friends like that? You could not even excuse yourself." Princess Amaka was really ashamed of herself. She could not even look the prince in his face. She apologized to him. "I am really sorry. I do not know why this would happen to me today of all days. It must be something I ate earlier. I am deeply sorry," she said, and ran out of the palace. On her way, she met the prince's friends who had told the prince that they had an important business meeting to attend. Obviously, they had left because of her and were just standing there, laughing about how a beautiful princess could not control her fart. As soon as they saw her, they became silent and looked at her awkwardly. Princess Amaka was too ashamed to look at them and ran even faster to her village. When she got to the palace, Ifeoma was already waiting for her to hear how the meeting went, but she was shocked to see the princess running as if she was ashamed and trying to hide from someone. She went to meet the princess immediately and calmed her down, then they went into the room. Ifeoma was curious and asked the princess what happened. When the princess told her, Ifeoma laughed so hard and then looked at the princess, thinking she was joking. She soon became serious when she saw that the princess was not laughing. "Princess, are you serious? How come? What happened?" Princess Amaka started crying and could not say anything. Ifeoma felt really bad for her and hugged her. "It's okay. I believe the prince will understand that it's not your fault and will come around soon." Prince Amaka later came to visit Princess Amaka to reconcile with her. Princess Amaka was still ashamed and continued to apologize, but the prince assured her that it was okay and he was no longer angry. He hugged her and stroked her hair. As he was hugging her, Princess Amaka released a loud fart unexpectedly. Prince Amaka immediately pushed her away and held his nose. He looked at her with fury in his eyes. Princess Amaka, who was taken aback, looked scared and stepped back from him. She was dumbfounded and didn't know what to say to the prince. The prince was filled with regret. He should have just forgotten about her after the incident at the banquet. Truly, it was a dirty character of hers, and he would never marry a woman like that. He spat out his long-held breath and walked away from Princess Amaka. She tried to run after him to beg him, but he threatened her to never show up in his presence again. Princess Amaka was really heartbroken. What kind of bad luck was this? She was cultured enough not to release farts in public. Why did it suddenly start happening now? Ifeoma assured her not to be too worried and to see everything that happened to her as being for her own good. Who knows? Maybe if you had married Prince Amika, you would regret it. What kind of man even breaks up with a woman he claims to love just because she farts loudly? Ifeoma then told Princess Amaka that they should go and visit the herbalist to know if there were any herbs that could cure the uncontrollable farts. They went to see the herbalist, and he gave the princess some herbs to drink. He also told her to avoid certain foods so that her stomach could reset. She went back home and did as she was told, and she seemed to get better. Princess Amaka returned to her lively way of life. She would take her long walks around the village, and when the villagers passed by, she would greet them with her warm smile. However, something strange started to happen. Whenever any man walked up to the princess to talk with her, she would unconsciously release a loud fart that smelled worse than a rotten egg mixed with rotten beans. The man would not be able to condone the unbearable smell and would run away from her, closing his nose. This happened not once, not twice, but several times, and that was when Princess Amaka knew that there was a problem. She noticed that it was only when she was talking with men that this farting happened, and not when she was with other women. By this time, news had already spread around the village that the princess had a loose anus. People started to spread the news all over and mocked her, calling her the smelly fart princess. Those who were happy at this news were the young women in the village whose fiancés had once compared them to the princess or abandoned them because of the princess. One of these ladies was Chinyere, who had lost her husband-to-be because of the princess. When she heard the news, she was very happy and couldn't wait to mock her face to face. She met the princess one day and screamed at her, "Smelly fart princess, rotten egg princess, why are you running away now? You think it is by being beautiful and attracting all the men to yourself? Of what use is your beauty now? You think it is by being beautiful and attracting all the men to yourself? Of what use is your beauty now? Who would want to be with a smelly woman like you?" Princess Amaka felt humiliated and hurriedly went back home. In the midst of all these things, King Chike and Queen Adaeze were really worried. They had never seen anything like this before and were sad that their precious princess was going through this ugly situation. They gave her all the support she needed and helped her in selecting her diet, hoping that one day it would come to an end. Ifeoma had met a very rich man who was going to marry her. She told her friend, the princess, who was happy for her and gave her support. Ifeoma had been a very supportive friend to the princess and was sensitive to the princess's feelings. She assured the princess that all her troubles would soon be over and she would meet the right man who would love her for who she was, regardless of anything. The princess smiled at her and they hugged each other. While all the men in the village avoided and scorned the princess, there was a particular man named Chidi who felt really concerned for her. He had known the princess to be a sweet soul and believed that if she was going through this, she deserved all the support she could get. He approached the princess and told her that he would like to be friends with her. As he was talking, the princess released a loud fart and felt embarrassed. She apologized to him, but he said it was okay, and he understood her situation. She was surprised to see that there was a man in the village who was not repelled by her smelly farts. They soon became friends, and Chidi supported the princess and never made her feel bad about herself. Ifeoma was happy that the princess was happy again. "I told you that you would see a man who will accept you regardless of your situation. All hope is not lost," Ifeoma told the princess. Ifeoma would soon be getting married in 1 week's time, and King Chike and Queen Adaeze would be standing in as her parents. The princess had also pledged her support for her. One day, Chidi came and told the princess that he wanted to take her somewhere. She followed him and was surprised when he took her to an old woman in a distant village. Chidi introduced the old woman as his maternal grandmother. She was a seer, and when Chidi had told her about the princess's situation, she told him to bring the princess to her. Ne, as Chidi called her, told Princess Amaka to draw closer. She told her to open her palms. She looked at Princess Amaka's left palm and shook her head. She then looked at her right palm and sighed sadly. Nan then told them that if she had seen a dark cloud on her left palm, it meant that the person who inflicted her with this shameful curse was somebody far from her. But rather she saw a dark cloud on her right palm, which meant that it was a close person who did this to her. The enemy was within. Chidi and the princess were still confused, but Ene told them not to worry as the truth would soon come to light. She told the princess to go to the river of justice to get her healing. She was to tie a white wrapper around her body and dip herself into the river 7 times. If she was innocent and did not deserve the affliction, then Adaeze, the river spirit, would heal her and return the affliction permanently to the evildoer with double consequences. The princess and Chidi thanked his grandmother and left. They went to get a white cloth immediately, and the princess went to the river to do as she was told. When she came out to meet Chidi, who was waiting for her at a distance, she looked at him with hope in her eyes. He held her and told her that it was settled. They both went back to the palace and met Ifeoma with her husband-to-be, Easy. Their marriage was to take place the next day, and the young man had come to ensure that everything was set in place. Chidi and the princess went and greeted them, wishing them well in their journey of love. As they were talking, a bad fart smell filled the atmosphere, and they all looked at the princess, who was embarrassed. She apologized to them and wanted to leave, when all of a sudden another fart was released. This time it was very loud and came from Ifeoma's side. They were all surprised and looked at Ifeoma. Ifeoma, too, was shocked and wondered what just happened. Before anyone could say a word, Ifeoma released a long series of loud, horrible farts that smelled like a rotting rat who ate a rotting egg before it died. Everyone had to shift back with their hands on their noses. Even Ifeoma could not bear the smell, and she covered her nose too. Everyone was shocked and looked disgusted at Ifeoma, but Ifeoma was frantic at this time and pointed at Princess Amaka. "What did you do? You were the one who usually farted." Chidi remembered what his grandmother had said about the enemy within and immediately shouted at Ifeoma to confess, or else she would die. Ifeoma tried to pretend like she didn't know what Chidi was talking about, but with the way the series of loud farts were coming out of her, she could not deny anything, and so she confessed. "It's the work of the devil. Please, I didn't know what came over me. Since childhood, I had always been jealous of the princess because she attracted all the attention to herself. I have harbored my jealousy all these years and pretended like I was not bothered. It was when she snatched the prince from me that I could not bear it anymore." Princess Amaka was surprised. "Prince? Which prince?" Ifeoma continued. "I saw Prince Amaka before you. He smiled at me and was going to talk to me when you suddenly came out, and then he became drawn to you. I was angry that you snatched him from me, and then I went to meet a powerful native doctor to inflict you with something that would scare away all the men from you. It was supposed to be permanent. I don't know how you got your healing. Please, I am very sorry. I allowed my jealousy to overtake me." Chidi held Princess Amaka, who was crying at this point. The young man who was supposed to marry Ifeoma spat out in disgust at her. "I didn't know you were this evil. Thank God for saving me from your evil claws. I don't want to ever see you again in my life. It is over between us." He thundered and stormed out of the compound. Ifeoma fell on her knees and begged him to forgive her, but it was futile. She then turned to Princess Amaka to beg for forgiveness, but Chidi blocked her and took the princess inside. When the king heard what happened, he was very livid and blamed himself for opening his doors wide to a beast whom he treated like a daughter. He threw Ifeoma out of the palace and banished her from the village. Ifeoma's affliction was worse in that even if she was standing with a fellow woman, she would release horribly smelling farts. As a result, she could not live with anyone no matter where she went, and so she continued to wander about endlessly. Princess Amaka and Chidi soon fell in love and later got married. The king and queen blessed their union, and they lived together happily. The villagers who once mocked the princess now admired her strength and resilience. They saw how Chidi's love and support helped her overcome her affliction, and they learned to value inner beauty and character over outward appearances. Meanwhile, Ifeoma's life took a different turn. Banished from the village, she wandered from place to place, unable to escape the consequences of her jealousy and deceit. She lived a lonely life, reflecting on her actions and the pain she had caused others. She eventually found solace in helping others, hoping to atone for her past mistakes. Years passed, and Princess Amaka and Chidi had children who grew up hearing the story of their parents' trials and triumphs. The couple became role models in the village, embodying the virtues of kindness, forgiveness, and perseverance. One day, Princess Amaka gathered the village children to share her story. She spoke of the importance of inner beauty, the dangers of jealousy, and the power of true love and support. She ended her story with some moral lessons related to African proverbs. When there is no enemy within, the enemies outside cannot hurt you. Focus on maintaining a pure heart and good intentions. Jealousy and envy are like enemies within that can destroy us from the inside. The child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Treat everyone with kindness and inclusiveness. Ifeoma's actions were driven by feelings of exclusion and jealousy. Embracing others can prevent such destructive feelings. The villagers reflected on these proverbs and the lessons from Princess Amaka's story. They realized the importance of cultivating inner beauty, showing compassion, and supporting one another. The story of Princess Amaka and Chidi became a cherished tale in Umuaka, passed down from generation to generation, reminding everyone that true beauty comes from within and that love and kindness can conquer all obstacles. And so, Princess Amaka and Chidi lived out their days with joy, surrounded by family and friends who had learned to see beyond appearances and value the true essence of a person. Their legacy of love, kindness, and resilience continued to inspire the village for many years to come.